as he became in his greatness and he embraced his greatness, he started wanting to. Because when you're young, you want to be your own. You don't want to be associated or branded with nobody else. You want to be your own. But Nip wasn't my first time in music.
Willie D Live.
When I came home, we wasn't calling ourselves the Crenshaw District. That wasn't no saying. We wasn't even pushing Crenshaw. You know what I mean? And that came about because I was in prison. I used to always hear the brothers from Compton, how they celebrated Compton. And other brothers celebrated Watts. And these other brothers celebrated somewhere. And I didn't want to celebrate South Central LA. I'm from the Crenshaw District. We went to Crenshaw. You know what I mean? And we wanted to celebrate Crenshaw. We wanted to celebrate our community because it had its roots in affiliation also at the same time. Because being from where we were, our section, it was called, really we called ourselves South Central LA, but South Central LA at that time was really considered Compton, Watts, and all that because it was South LA. We really was West LA. You know what I'm saying? But we're not West LA. We're not West LA because then that goes into my brothers, the Mansfields and the Marvins and the PBGs and all them, the Venezuela, because that's considered West LA. So we not really, in our area, it's now called the Crenshaw District or the Crenshaw area, but prior to me coming home, we was kind of like no area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you know our area, it's kind of like from Western to the water down Slauson and Florence, and then Crenshaw runs through it. But Crenshaw only runs through our section, from our section, maybe 20 blocks at the most. You know what I mean? And we claim that little section and we made it popular. But that's also old Crenshaw. That's also where, 50 years ago, if you was black, African-American, you couldn't party in Hollywood. You party right there at Crenshaw. Mavis Flats, all of that, right up and down Crenshaw. You know what I mean? That's where all the old players was going. Right there. We couldn't go to Beverly Hills. We weren't going over there and doing that. Right there on Crenshaw.
What was that area that Nip had this idea to build this office space and stuff?
It was right there on Crenshaw and Slauson. He actually not on Crenshaw. He actually is on Victoria and Slauson. So it's a block off Crenshaw, and but you can also be saying it's Crenshaw too. But it's actually right there in that square. That's where him and his brother first started hustling, right there. But like I was saying, prior to Bro, there was the homies already. We hustled right there. Everybody hustled right there. And then Ralph's used to be right there. So when we was young, we used to go to Ralph and take baskets out, take people baskets for quarters and pump gas for nickels and quarters and all that. We all did it right there on Crenshaw and Slauson. So that's why if you see a lot of people who claim that area and claim that section, that's because we all was babies right there. That wasn't birthed by Nipsey, me, and nobody else. It was a lot of big homies who all, and that's kind of where. And then another way to explain it is it was the major bus section. Where if you wanted to get to the mall, coming from different places, that your bus stop was right there on Crenshaw and Slauson. That's where, you're gonna meet right there and go anywhere anywhere throughout the city of LA. You can meet right there from the west side, not the deep west side when you're going further, but we kind of like the last stop. Then you go into the water.
Right. How'd you and Nip met?
Me and Nip met my nephew, Tiny Draws. Or
Tiny
shortstop.
Draws.
Tiny Draws. I told you I was going to make the name famous. It's a lot of them now.
So Big Draws and Tiny Draws hook up.
Big Draws, Little Draws, Baby Draws. We do it big, little, tiny, big, little, baby, tiny, and it goes down.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you and Nip met through your nephew, Tiny Draws.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so what's your first impression of Nip?
My first impression of Nip was good looking, debonair, and he looked like Snoop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He had a squeaky voice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I always did think he could play Snoop. I was like, man, if they ever do a biopic on Snoop,
Yeah, he didn't like that. He didn't
Nip,
like that. He didn't like it at first. Then he warmed to it. As he became in his greatness and he embraced his greatness, he started warming up to it. Because you know, when you're young, you want to be your own. You don't want to be associated or branded with nobody else. You want to be your own. But Nip wasn't my first time in music.
You worked with Corrupt too, didn't you?
I was in music
was
before.
Corrupt first?
My first.
No, Corrupt was before.
Corrupt was
Nip,
first.
though.
Corrupt was no, my first wasn't Corrupt. My first was Laquan, Pop LQ. Remember he had the B side.
Okay.
Yeah, he was my first, and then even before that, my first shout out on the album came from Tila, King T.
Okay.
That was my first shout out in music.
King
was
T.
was King T. King T gave me a shout out. I'm not sure what album it was. Maybe in his first. We gotta ask him. It might have been his first project. He gave me a shout out. Big U shouted me out. That was my first time in music.
Yeah.
And then I slowly in around because I was getting money at that time. You know what I mean? But my first actual sit down with the ideal of doing music came from Laquan, Pop LQ. Yeah, that was my first time.